Hello and welcome back to another video. As some of you may or may not know, I run an online photography course. The link will be in the description below for those interested in checking that out. But what I decided to do is ask a few of the students if they'd like to submit some photos where I could then critique them. So just keep in mind, this isn't going to be a really harsh critique or anything like that. A lot of the students or a lot of the members of the course are at completely different journeys in their photography. Some of them are absolute beginners and some of them are already really good. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to judge these photos based on what I think their skill level is and things like that. So I'm not going to be incredibly harsh for no reason. I'm just going to offer some constructive criticism and also appreciate the photos and things like that. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Everyone is at a completely different stage in their journey in photography. So yeah, that's really important to keep in mind. I'm not going to be overly harsh, as I said. I'm just going to be truthful, honest, and offer more constructive feedback than anything. So yeah, in this video, I'll probably do about 10 images and then there's quite a few more, so I'll probably make a second video at a later date. So if you did submit your photo and you missed out, don't worry, I'll do another video and I'll probably just keep doing these maybe once a month or something like that. So yeah, let's get started with the very first one. Now I have also asked the members that when they did submit photos, I did ask them whether they'd like to remain anonymous or not. So I'll say their name if they didn't mind their name being mentioned, I should say. So the first one here is from Angie Rekonov. Hopefully I'm saying your name correctly here. And that's this one here. So it's a picture of what we would call in Australia a ute, but it looks like it's missing the rear cab or the rear ute section in the bush. And I absolutely love this photo. I really love the mood. One thing I could say is the exposure could be a little brighter, but in saying that, I really love the mood the way it is. So I like how it's dark underneath and it gets brighter towards the top of the frame. I'm a big fan of this one. I have seen this come up in the group, so I've seen this one before and I love it. I just love the rustic look of the ute or the car, whatever you like to call it. And yeah, I just reckon it's framed really well. I love the blades of grass coming up in front of the car and in front of the camera. And they've done a great job as well of capturing a lot of the detail in the sky, which is often hard to do. Usually it's quite easy to blow the sky out, make it too bright when everything else is well exposed. But they've done a great job here. The only thing that I would have done in this scenario that would have been different, but it's a totally different technique, is possibly waited till nighttime or till it got a bit darker and done some light painting. I think that would have looked absolutely amazing. But in saying that, it is a great photo as it is. So well done, Angie. Big fan of that one. I'm not sure. I also asked them to explain their photo. So I do have a write-up of this one. This one says, I took this photo in 2022 at a property owned by a friend in northern New South Wales. So another Australian. My camera was a Canon EOS 400D and settings were ISO 400 at 22mm. F-stop was 13 and it was shot at a shutter speed of 1/200th of a second. One thing I forgot to mention at the very start of this is that obviously everyone's using different equipment as well. So although some people say the equipment doesn't matter, it certainly does when it comes to certain things such as camera. There's a lot of cameras that focus faster than others. There's a lot of lenses that just produce a lot more better quality and camera bodies as well. So that's another thing to keep in mind when we do go through these. Some of these people have really beginner cameras and other people have very expensive cameras. So that's another important thing we need to keep in mind. With those settings there, they all look really good. The only thing I would say is, and this is something that it's quite easy for beginners or intermediate photographers to fall into. I see a lot of professional photographers do this as well. And it's fair enough if you're just taking a quick snapshot. But if you're spending time dialing in your settings, one thing to keep in mind here is that they shot this at ISO 400, which isn't really a problem. But the shutter speed was 1/200th of a second. Now that's really fast. Even if this was shot handheld, you could shoot that shutter speed a lot slower, meaning you could slow down the shutter speed and lower the ISO as well, because it's all a bit of a balance. If you lower your ISO somewhere, you can lower the shutter speed somewhere else. So what I would have done in this instance, they probably could have shot at ISO 100 and that would have given them a 1/25th of a second, a shutter speed. If they're on a tripod, but if they wanted to still shoot 1/100th of a second, they could have shot that at ISO 200. Now ISO 400 is not really going to be a problem when it comes to grain and noise and things like that, depending on the camera. But as I do say in the course constantly, I like to keep my ISO as low as possible, but obviously expose correctly at the same time. So that's the only thing I'd say about the settings with this one. But yeah, let's go to the next one. So this next one here is from Narelle Aldridge. And this one is really beautiful. I'm going to read the explanation they've given for the photo first, and then I'll get into my little critique. So I experimented with different light sources using flowers and a black cloth background. I liked how the dandelion shed and gave a wind-blown effect as the seed umbrellas started to fall. So this was shot on a Nikon D5500 with a 55mm lens at f5.6, 3/5 of a second. I think that says there. It's hard to make sense of that. Yeah, it must be 3/5 of a second at ISO 100. So the settings here, in my opinion, are really, really good. So let's go look at the photo. I'm just going to open that now. The aperture at f5.6 is really good for this because it's going to allow you to get more in focus. If you shot this at something like f1.8 or 2.8, there might be really small portions of the flower that are in focus and everything else is blurry. So Narelle's done a fantastic job here of choosing the right aperture to get the whole flower in focus really, really nicely. They've done a great job of with that dark background. They've done a really good job of separating the subject from the background. So I'm just trying to open it again and zoom in. Yeah, it's nice and sharp. I also love how the little buds are flying off and they're making that umbrella effect. Really, really nice image. I really like that one. I wonder if, I think I did see this on the group as well, but I'm not too sure if Narelle used flash or anything like that for this, but either way, it's a great image. Well done. The next one here is from Jessica Harrison. And I'll read the explanation once again. We went on a family adventure to the Bunya Mountains to watch the sunset. My son loves watching sunsets, so I caught this beautiful moment. I'm a sucker for sunset photos, especially when they have like a silhouette like this. I'm a really big fan of this photo. I don't know what the settings are on this. I also didn't check if there was any EXIF data, but either way, it seems to be shot really, really well. I love the fringing around the boy's body. So you can see like the glow around his body, around the silhouette. I think that looks absolutely fantastic. Again, they've done a really good job here of not blowing out the sun or anything like that. They've looked like they've captured all the details and haven't lost anything. Yes, the foreground is dark, but that's the effect I imagine they were going for. The only thing I would say in this photo, and it's a stupid thing, but always keep it in mind when it comes to landscape photography, is to try and keep the horizon level in your photos. As I always say, photography and a lot of art is subjective, so you can completely ignore that, but in my eyes, I love seeing a horizontal horizon when it comes to photos like landscapes and things like that. But all in all, great photo. I really love this one. Captured the mood. I almost imagine like I'm there and it's like a warm sunset and yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. This one here is by Vincent Lewis, and this explanation of this one is a portrait of my wife in the Werribee Park Woolshed in Werribee Zoo, Victoria, so another Australian, last week. This is my first real attempt at a portrait, as my normal genre is landscape and wildlife. I was looking to capture the light coming in from a window to project a pensive mood. Settings were f5.6, ISO 5000, and he's mentioned here that the shed was quite dark, completely understandable. Shutter speed of 1/250th. So again with this one, if it was handheld, you probably still could have halved the shutter speed, so go from 1/250th to 1/125th. Sorry. Yeah, 1/125th of a second, and you would have been able to go to ISO 2500. Again, it depends on your camera and the stabilization you have, but 1/1/250th would still be fast enough, even handheld on most cameras. You could even go, if you're quite still with your hands, quite steady the way you held your camera, you could even go down to 1/50th or 1/60th, which would have given you an ISO of around 1000. So yeah, it's all a balance, and it is hard to get, I do explain this in the course, and it is hard to remember these things, but if you double your ISO, then you can, so let's just say I have a perfect exposure, my ISO is 5000, and my shutter speed's 1/500th. If I half my shutter speed to 1/250th, that means I should also be able to half my ISO to 2500. So as long as you have the correct exposure, that's how it works. So it's all to do with stops and adding stops and taking away stops. So if you can, yeah, shoot at a lower ISO and still get a shot without any, hand movement or camera movement, then that's perfect. But let me take a look at this image. I really, really like this one. It looks like you got her eyes in focus really, really well, which is usually the most important thing when it comes to portraits. As as Vincent said, he doesn't really shoot portraits all that often. He mostly does landscapes. And yeah, I think you've done a fantastic job here. I'm not the biggest expert at portrait photography, I must admit. I do it, but it's just not something, there's a lot of people who will critique the position that she's in and things like that. I don't have anything to say about that. I think it looks really good. I do love the mood, how her face goes from a bright exposure and goes to dark because of the window she's standing in front of. I possibly would have liked to see maybe a little bit more detail in the darker area, so maybe just lift the shadows on the darker side. and drop the highlights on the left side. So just a bit of a drop in the highlights on the brighter parts and lifting the shadows on the darker parts. Not to make it flat, but just to bring a little bit more detail back. Other than that, I think it's a great shot. You've definitely captured the pensive mood. She really does look like she's thinking about something, so well done, Vincent. Next one we have here is from Pam Garland. And I was on a morning walkabout at our local lake when I spotted this fluffy little dunnock and thought it was very cute. So let's take a look at this one. It is very cute. I actually really like this one. It's what I love about this one. There's no camera setting shared here, so I can't comment on that. I could probably look at the XF data, but I haven't done that for these. What I love about this is the depth of field. It looks like the bird is in really good focus. Unfortunately, the bird's eye is closed. Would have been nice if the eye was open, but the eye closed kind of adds to the cuteness. But I love the depth of field. You seem to have got the bird in focus, and everything in front and behind the bird is slowly drifting out of focus, which I absolutely love. It's not the best background. Obviously, it's hard to handle. Like, it's hard to control that unless you're taking a lot of photos and waiting for the perfect moment. But the bird does kind of blend into the wood. That looks like a pier or wood decking of some kind. The bird does blend into that, so it is hard to see the separation. But other than that, it is a great photo, and wildlife photography is one of the harder things. Just trying to get the animal where you want it with a nice background that isn't too distracting is a really challenging task. So you've done a great job. I also love how the decking is on an angle, and whatever that is in the front, like a rock or the shell of a peanut or something, I don't know what that is. That kind of adds to it for me as well. It's like a leading line. Yeah, great job. I really like that one. This next one is from Vicky Livermore, and this is the explanation. This is my favorite of all the photos I've taken, so I'd just be interested to see what you think and how I could have made it any better. I love taking photos of the water, and I'm going to Niagara Falls in July, so looking for any hints and tips. Thanks, Vicky. Vicky, enjoy Niagara Falls. That sounds amazing. Let's look at the photo. Wow. Okay. This to me is like a perfect photo. I love this. I would print and frame this at home 100%. I love the reflection, just everything just looks so surreal. I love the reflection of the boats, the still water. I love the pink hue in the sky, and it fades to kind of like the blue. I don't know if I like the branch coming into the image with the leaves on the right, but I think it also kind of adds to the image and helps frame it. But yeah, I'd probably love to see a version with and without that, and just choose between them, because without the branch, it's just a really clean, simple image. I love it. With the branch, it adds some kind of framing. I also like it as well, but I don't know if I would have preferred to see that without. What I might do as well is I don't mean to edit your photos, but I might chuck a version up side by side without that, and just so you guys can decide what you like. But yeah, this is absolutely beautiful. Love the glassy water. Yeah, beautiful. I'd love to have known the settings on this. It looks like it's a pretty closed down aperture, maybe f8 or above, because most things are in focus. But this image just has so many things going for it. The reflection of the boats, the beautiful glassy water, the fog in the background, and then that beautiful pink sunset or sunrise. Absolutely beautiful. Looks like a pastel painting. It's amazing. I love this one. Like I said, I would print and frame this one. Very well done, Vicky. Love that. Let's go for another one. This is Elizabeth Palmer. Colours of a Tasmanian sunset, taken when I first got my Pentax K3 Mark III, I'm guessing that is. A bit of a step up from the K5, a softer than usual sunset through the clouds. Settings were f5.6, 1/60th of a second, ISO 800 at 43mm. Must have used my 18 to 50mm lens. So in terms of settings, pretty good. If you're still enough, you might have been able to do 1/30th of a second and get ISO 400, but not a big deal. It looks great anyway. Let's have a look at this. I'll open it up bigger. Yeah, this is really nice. I love it looks like there's movement in the sky. It looks like the sky is on fire. I really like this. One thing I probably would have loved to seen in this image is maybe the foreground. Maybe if you could lift some details out of there and it wasn't so dark. But other than that, I really love this. You've captured the sky. There's hardly anything that's blown out. Yeah, great job. I like that one as well. All right, so this next one here is from Tracy Howard. I took this one in the evening at 8:34 p.m. with a Nikon D3500, and I had it on auto mode. It is RAW, so it's a RAW photo. Well, it was a RAW photo, and it was shot on auto. Let's take a look. All right, so here it is. I really, really love this one. I love this. Always love a silhouette against the sunset. And yeah, I love how the trees are all silhouetted. You've obviously had a shutter speed that looks like it was fast enough where the trees aren't blurring. Sometimes I've noticed when people do photos like this, their shutter speed might be a tad too slow and you get a bit of the blur in the trees, which can also look good, but they've done a great job of this one. It kind of reminds me of like a Japanese thing. I don't know why that is, like a sakura tree or whatever they're called. I don't know why. It reminds me of Japan, but it's probably not. But, well, actually, I think they mentioned where it was. No, they didn't. But yeah, I love this one. Great job. This one here is photo was taken, and he's got the date, February 27th, 2024, on a very overcast day in PA. Is that Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? I'm not sure. At my backyard bird feeders. Photo was taken with my Nikon D7100 with my Tamron 18 to 270mm lens, f3.5 to 6.3. So I do like this one. It is a good image, but there's no offense here whatsoever. It's a bit like a phone photo or something like that, where there's not really any isolation between the subject and the background, and the subject is a little bit far away. You may have been at the full reach of the lens, but unfortunately that's just something that happens. But when I zoom in, it's a really nice looking bird and it is in focus. You have done a really good job, but it kind of does look like just a photo most people could snap really quickly. And I know, like I said, nature photography or animal photography is really hard, trying to find that perfect moment. But yeah, you've done a good job. At least the exposure and everything like that is really, really nice. It looks even across the board. Colors are nice, things like that. But yeah, it just, there's not a lot of, obviously I'd love to have seen the bird a lot larger in the frame and a bit more of a maybe blurry background isolating the bird from the grass and the surrounding things. But nonetheless, great job, good effort. And this next one here, this will probably be the last one that I do for this critique, and then we'll do another one, like I said, in a few weeks or a month or something. This person here would like to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to mention their name, but they wrote to explain this one: practicing black and white pictures, also some photo editing. This is absolutely beautiful. This is another one I could imagine printed and framed in a really long kind of portrait orientation. It's beautiful. I love the mood. I love that it's black and white. I would love to see the color version as well, just to see what it originally looked like. But I love this. There's heaps of mood in this. You've captured those, I don't know, my eye just keeps moving through the frame, finding more and more interesting things. Loving the fog. Yeah, I love how you've got the tree really close on the right and then they kind of get further away and into the fog. It's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful image. I love this one. Again, like I said, I would like to have seen the color version just for the sake of it. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful job. Can't say their name. They wanted to remain anonymous, and that's fair enough. So that's it. That's 10 of the images that my students from my course submitted. As I said, they're all at different parts of their photography journey. Most of them are probably beginners, so I'm not going to be stupidly harsh, but there's definitely some talent in there and some really, really good images. I don't know what, well, I do know, but not at this moment in time. I don't know where they're at in the course as well. So someone might be at the end of the course and they've mastered a lot of the stuff, whereas someone else might be at the start of the course, just getting the hang of things and learning their camera settings. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. This was really, really fun to do. I love it. It was a good way of giving my students like some quick feedback. We do have a Facebook group where they can post a photo and ask for feedback whenever they want, but it's cool in video form where they can capture my like live reaction to their photo and things like that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this. If you are wanting to learn photography, my course does cover everything from the basics all the way to more advanced techniques, and the link will be in the description below. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one. I do have a lot more travel photography videos coming up, so stay tuned for those, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.